All right guys, here we are with the installed dual face trigger, and before we go to the install, I want to just kind of give a little comparison on the standard SIG flat face trigger and our dual enhanced. So enhanced has the little screw in it now. So let's go ahead and we're clear here. You can see that. So right here, that was all of the pull. Let's go ahead and boom. So a lot less movement. If you look at this one, it takes out all of that. There are some caveats to that, so stay tuned for the install as we talk about what the trade-offs are for taking out some of the slop or pre-travel. But let's go ahead and show that one. So it is racked now. We got all that, and then we hit okay, and one other thing I want to show you. So I'm going to try to not travel past the brake. And there's not much movement after the brake. It's really hard to really gauge how much movement is after the brake. But what I did is I took one of these triggers and I shoved some shims, some thin shims behind it to see how much I could take out of that the post-brake travel. And that's what we've done here. There's no set screw in it, but if it's really like there's so little. The amount I took out was about a hair or less, and so not a big deal. Fingers moving less, but then the big difference is gonna be. Let's try this. I guess I didn't rack these both, guys. Let's go ahead and rack them both. Fingers touching. Here we are. And let's go ahead and get into the install. We're going to install one of these right here on this macro for you. All right, guys, and here we are. Here's what we're gonna need for this install. We're gonna have the trigger here and its packaging. It's gonna come with the set screw and the obscenely small Allen key. And we're gonna need maybe like a block, not a need, but I will say these are a need if you need to know where to get these. Sig Sauer guy sells them on his website. He makes these, and I think he sources these. Amazing tools for the install. This one, first time, I'll talk about it later. And you're gonna want probably some trigger grease, some trigger butter. This is just happens to be from the gun butter guys, some trigger butter. And so what we're gonna do first here is make sure the gun has no mag in it. And we're gonna make sure it's clear. It's clear, we're gonna lock that slide back. Take down lever here. Let it go home. We can set that slide off to the side. We don't need that anymore. We're gonna take that Sig Sauer tool, Sig Sauer guy tool, and I'm gonna set it on the block here. And just, I'm looking through a camera, so it's a little bit harder. You're just gonna punch this little piece out. I've noticed some of them don't wanna punch, some of these macros only wanna punch one way. And this one happens to be magnetic, so you won't lose your pieces. It's pretty handy. Then we're just gonna take it out from the back first and it rocks out. Grip module we can also set aside, and we can just, let's just get it off camera for a bit, and we can just get there. So first things we're gonna do, and this is where the first few times I've installed triggers on the macro, this has been the hardest part to take off and to put back on. And so this trigger spring here, let's go ahead and let's try to just zoom down for you. This trigger spring here is very, it's under pressure and it's just hard. And even with this, sometimes I'll stab my thumb. So just be careful. You kind of get your tool behind it and just kind of leverage it up. And there we go, it popped out. See, my thumb was right there, so it didn't go fly off. Not that it should, because it is kind of encompassed. I'm gonna put it in a little magnetic tray over here, one of these. Okay, and so at this point you want to try to keep it upright. A lot of times when you take it out, some of these newer FCUs, some of the pins want to just fall out freely. And if this pin falls out, the safety mechanism will just fall out and you'll find it on the ground somewhere. Hopefully you don't lose it. Next step, guys, we're going to come over here. And this is the pin I'm talking about that likes to just fall out on some of the newer FCUs. And we're just going to kind of wedge it just enough that that face, don't go too far because then it starts falling apart. So just enough that this inside face is about aligned with this face here. And you'll know that you're far enough if you can kind of move this off screen a little bit. Let's do that again. You can kind of move that up and out. And you see that? I'm gonna do that from another angle. And I'm gonna link a bunch of YouTube videos on standard trigger installs because one person doesn't do it right. I've seen variants on these FCUs that one person's install won't work for another FCU. So this guy over here is in the takedown lever. And so you just kind of pull this out, rotate it out, and boom. So you can set that off on your tray or wherever. So that's out. Again, keeping it upright. I don't want this pin to fall out. And at this point, I believe I can take out this guy here. Boom, boom. Magnetic tray, it's super handy. I'm gonna rotate it back. Normally I do this all right here on the block, but I don't have a really good angle for you guys. So I'm kind of doing it floating in the air, trying to get a better angle. So at this point, we took the trigger spring off. So this bar and the trigger will just kind of freely move. And what we're gonna do is get our finger in there or just grab it on the side and just twist. You see that? Trigger's all the way back, we twist. And actually, you know what? I forgot one of the tools. Pause. And I actually think, the included. So here's the trigger that we're gonna put in, get rid of the trash. Zoom back out a little bit, guys. Sorry, we're all over the place. Trying to get this recorded before I leave the SHOT Show so that we can get these triggers sent out to you guys. So I'm gonna take the Allen key out here, leave the little set screw for now, seal that back up. It's tiny, don't lose it. Take precautions. So with this Allen key, you can actually just slide it right there and push out the trigger spring. See how that slid out? Save that in a magnetic tray. Now when you do this, it'll just rock right out. Boom. Now the trigger sometimes just wants to hang out, but you just kind of, I don't know if there's a scientific way to go forward and up. Boom. Trigger, I'm not gonna put that back in. I'm gonna set that off to the side. And at this point, you wanna go ahead and kind of clean it. If you fired it a lot, if you haven't, then go out and fire it some more. But clean it up, take some of this factory grease off, and I'll show you where to lube up as we go back. Yeah, just somewhere, you know, take out some of that factory grease everywhere. You're gonna have some GSR around here. Keep your finger on the takedown so it doesn't pop out, just makes it easier. If it popped out, search up that video. There's videos on how to get that back in there and all that. So yeah, this wasn't fired a whole lot. So just kind of took off some of the factory grease and I'm gonna call that good. So what we're gonna do is just do this in reverse now. And let me get my head around it. First thing I wanna do is take out this screw. Do not lose it. Hold it over something, maybe a magnetic tray. I don't sell these, they're on Amazon. And then just get it on your Allen key. So get it there, drop a dab of blue Loctite on that without it falling off. Oop, got a little bit there. Got more on my finger. Handy to have a rag by because your hands will get greasy. And I'm gonna go ahead and put that set screw in. Now, the ideal way to do is don't force it. Go clockwise and then counterclockwise till those threads line up and easily line like that. Lining those threads up is going to be it's going to be important to line those up. So thread locker's in there, but it's not going to set for 24 hours, which is what we want because we need to get this installed and adjust it. And again, actually I haven't said it, so not again. The set screw is optional. If you're going to EDC this and you don't want to take out some of the travel, don't take it out. It's at your own risk. You're liable. If you take out too much, it will compromise the safety of the firearm. And we'll talk about that once we get there. All right, so we got that trigger back in. What I like to do is, I didn't clean this part off. Let's get our trigger butter out here. I'm gonna put a little bit of trigger butter around this right here. Little syringe style. Little trigger butter there. Put it in the holes. That pin is gonna go in there and you want that pin to rotate. Boom. Okay, so before I really put it in there, I grab this guy and I line this up. All right, put the trigger in and do that. Super easy. Let's get closer. Let's do that again and get closer. All right. You got the trigger set in there. It's all the way back. You're gonna take this trigger bar and line it under and get that circle around it. Line up the circles. And you'll know it's lined up if you engage it. Boom. So now it's in that circle. Boom, you're there. So next thing I do, it's not the reverse order. I put the pin in last on this on reverse. Some FCUs don't allow it to go in first. Or after the pin. If you put the pin in right now, a lot of FCUs won't allow this to line up. So go ahead and put your takedown in. And on this side, you want to go all the way to that. Push it all the way until it's in that little teeny groove. See that little teeny groove? See that? Boom. So now it's in. I can set it. I can pull the trigger back. And now I can put the pin in. And I already greased that hole. So pin in. And this I'm also going to set down this way down because you're going to want to push this pin. It's depending on just tolerances and all that. You're just going to want to push this while you're trying to line up the trigger. See how I'm fiddling the trigger back and forth, wobbling it back and forth so it lines up. I'm going to keep doing that until it's flush right there. See that pin? Flush. And this hasn't fallen out yet, so I'm good. Boom. Okay. Next thing we need to do is come over to this side, put your takedown up, get your takedown bar, put the back in. Just watch this. It's easier to watch than listen to my voice because I'm like not looking at the camera. And all right, so that's up. And you see the groove in the takedown. You want this. So this part's easier to do setting down. You want that up so that it'll drop in. You'll see a little groove right there. And so you kind of want it not straight up, but about at that angle. And then you're gonna just kind of rock it into that hole. This is also one of the hardest parts to get. You don't want to bend anything, you just want to slightly angle. See that? Slightly angle this bar. So it goes in like this. You want to slightly angle top so that it'll slide in. And that takes a lot of work. Go ahead and watch some of the videos we're going to link. Different techniques to getting that bar in. At this point, I've done this so many times, I just kind of just do it. Okay, and the last piece we got, besides the pin, is the trigger spring. So go ahead and put the trigger spring back in its house there. Got that little lever, wants to be right there in that notch. And then this is the part that I had the hardest time with the first 2 or 3 times I've done this. I always stab my finger with this tool, but if you get it just right, slipped, trying not to stab my finger because I've done that enough. Get this down here. See, I'm holding that kind of right here. I don't know why. Come on, baby. So don't feel bad if this takes you like 10 attempts. It's almost lined up. Almost in the hole. It's so close. That's what she said. Oh shit. There we go. Got it in that hole. And we are golden. So at this point we want to push this back in. Should have pushed that back in earlier. You can, so nothing's falling out. And then double check that nothing fell out. This guy, you don't want this. If that's missing, then check your table, check your floor, because that means this bar was pulled out too much and it fell out. If you need to line that up, go ahead and search up some videos on that, because that's a whole nother ball game. That's a tricky, tricky little guy. Just doing a little more cleaning while I see it, while I have it apart. All right, and so here's what we're gonna look at real quick, guys. Here's what we're doing. If this set screw right here will start the trigger either wherever, so the more you tighten this in or thread it in, the further back the trigger starts at. And if you notice, watch this. Nope, watch this, the safety bar here. If I go too far, that safety bar is gonna move up. Oh, look at that. That's what I'm saying. Adjusting this will adjust your internal safety. So do it at your own risk. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you're gonna use this for competition, then feel free to be more aggressive with that and allow that to be all the way back. But if you're using it for EDC, I just recommend don't even include the set screw. Just take it out. Just don't do it. But that's my personal preference, my personal opinion. It's not legal. It's advice. It's not gunsmith advice. It is just don't shoot your balls off advice. The other thing that's going to do is you're going to see, I believe it is this bar over here is gonna move, which moves everything basically, and it means this. So watch this. I move that, and the set screw doesn't let it go any more forward than that. And if I'm trying to take this down, I can't see how that's gonna interfere. Let me go ahead and do this. Those collide. The takedown and the trigger arm are going to collide. And so if you take too much out, you will not be able to lock your slide or remove your slide for that reason, and you won't be able to put it back on because that the safety, forget the technical term, the safety little arm guy, internal safety arm, will be rubbing against your slide. And so adjusting this and using this is very, complicated. You need to understand what's going on. Those are the two major things that are happening. So with that said, let's grab this one right here real quick and show you. I've taken out quite a bit. But I've done not so much that I can't take this down. So if you take too much, that won't even stay. It'll just always pop back. But now I can't release the slide because something's not lining up. See how it popped back so easily? Popping back. So for this one, I'm not getting the slide off unless I remove that set screw on the trigger. Does that make sense, guys? So if that's not worth it, don't do it. But if you're okay with cleaning your barrel like this and not fully disassembling, because every time you put that in, you need to Loctite it in there. There are ways to get all of these advantages. Yeah, I can't take it down. Why do I keep trying? There are ways to get all these advantages, but That would take some gunsmithing and some inside knowledge. We're trying to figure out if we can make a kit to make these, to let you adjust your trigger and not have the side effects, if that makes sense. To be able to still remove the slide and put the slide back on. So, add the set screw at your own risk and know what kind of shooting you're gonna do. If you're EDCing, don't do it. You can take a tiny bit out and you can put a tiny bit back in. Well, here's what I'm gonna say. We're gonna go ahead and put this in. Got our pin here. I'm gonna zoom out a little. I'm gonna cap my Loctite and my gun butter, but I'm gonna first put a little bit more butter on. I'm just gonna do a little bit on these rails. And then I'm gonna go in and use my finger or a Q-tip to spread it so it's not excessive. And you can do the same on the slide channel too. So there we are. We haven't set any of the, we haven't taken anything out of there yet. And so you can still take your slide off. So let's go ahead and show you that next step. So your gun's there and you decide you do want to take out some of the pre-travel. What you're gonna do is with a clear firearm, you're gonna go ahead and just get that right little angle. I can't do it while looking through the camera, it's too small, but you're gonna get your Allen key in from here. And you're trying to try to get it in that set screw, there it is. And then you're gonna go towards the trigger to tighten it. I'm gonna do it 2 of these, which is like a 1/4 turn each. So that is taken a little bit out, and then you can test it every 1/4 turn. It stays, and I can take it off. Make sure that's down. And I can put it back on. So I'm still good there. Took out just a hair. Let's do that one more turn. So I'm gonna do 2 for time's sake. 1. 2. So it's just moving it a 1/4 of a thread each time. That one was, see, it's a little hard to get off now. It's a little stuck, most likely on that. But it did come off. It's a little stuck, trying to go back on, but it's doable. So that's probably your limit if you want to still take your slide off. So play with things like that. Adjust that to where you want it. And if we can line these up, it's all gonna be hairs, but it's, so yes, this one's a little bit further back, so boom. So I'm gonna actually leave this one here so that I can take it off. That's actually a good spot. I'm not compromising anything. I can still take it off to clean it or service it, or it does get a little stuck there, but it does come off. So if you've got better advice on those set screws, let us know in the comments and we'll update our video. But that's something that I've got one where I've taken it all out. Not this one, another one with a silver test trigger, where I've taken out all of the pre-travel that I can. Because once you start taking too much out, it won't break anymore, or it won't reset. So that's something you also want to test. Every time, make sure it's breaking and resetting. And then once you get it to where you want, let it sit, let that Loctite sit for 24 hours. Otherwise it'll start backing out on you. So that's where we're at, guys. Drop your questions in the description, or hit us up on the website or Instagram, or check out our FAQ or the product page. We try to answer all of our questions on the product page. Once we start getting a question multiple times, we'll add that information to the product page so that we can better get you the information and you don't have to ask us all the time, hey, what about this? We'll add it to the product page. So that's where we're at. But yeah, that's our enhanced dual flat face trigger. One thing that initial design was that I really liked about this flat face trigger was that 90 degree. So when the gun, so to the gun, that's 90 degree. Oh, angle it bad for you, sorry. And yeah, there we are. If you have questions or comments, guys, again, drop them in the description and we'll come back at you with some more information if we need to. Boop, boop, boop. I'm trying to think of anything else. It'll work in any 365 FCU. So macro, standard, XL, what's that goofy one that has no sights? Whatever it's called. It'll work in any 365 FCU. I do not think it'll work with any of the shim kits out there or anything like that because I've already taken out the post-break travel. So adding another shim will probably just jam it or let it not break. But there we are. Thanks guys. Share, like, subscribe, all that cool crap.